Gentlemen, I call this briefing of the Emerging Threats and Capabilities Subcommittee of the House Armed Services Committee to order. I'm pleased to welcome everyone here today for this very important hearing on our Special Operations Forces in the United States Special Operations Command as we review the fiscal year 2016 budget request. With the evolving and persistent threats being posted by state and non-state actors, our Special Operations Forces have never been more central, strategic, and sought after. Illegal, asymmetric enemy combatants not in uniform must be stopped overseas. From the unconventional and hybrid threats of an aggressive Russia to the troubling, expansive, and clandestine networks of Iran, and of course an evolving Al-Qaeda and their affiliates, now the Islamic State in Iraq and Levant, known in the region as Daesh, we do indeed face an uncertain threat environment. Our Special Operations Forces have been engaged in heavy combat and direct action for nearly 14 continuous years. It is imperative that we properly resource, train, and equip to now deal equally as well with the hybrid and asymmetric threats of tomorrow, and do so with the looming shadow of defense sequestration. Simply put, our national defense and security of American families depends on this. The House Armed Services Committee has consistently supported our Special Operations Forces, providing additional authorities when warranted, authorizing additional funds for unmet critical requirements, and most recently resourcing important family support and suicide prevention programs to ensure our servicemen and women, our warriors and their families, are taken care of and know firsthand that humans are indeed more important than hardware. Although our support has been consistent, it has also been accompanied by prudent oversight and robust dialogue to ensure that we do all things that are right for the overall defense of our great nation. The commitment and sacrifice of our Special Operations Forces is evident to all of us. We examine this budget request to ensure that we in Congress are doing everything that we think is right and necessary for those units and their families. So we look forward to discussing today the priorities for the U.S. Special Operations Command and our Special Operations Forces for fiscal year 2016, and perhaps more importantly, discussing candidly the challenges that stand before us today. We have before us a very distinguished panel of witnesses: the Honorable Michael Lumpkin, the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Special Operations and Low-Intensity Conflict, and General Joseph Votel, the Commanding General of the United States Special Operations Command. I'd like now to turn to my longtime friend and ranking member, Mr. Jim Langevin from Rhode Island, for any comments he'd like to make.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank our witnesses for appearing before the subcommittee today to discuss the Special Operations Command fiscal year 2016 budget request. Although our conventional forces have seen increases in dwell time over the last few years as combat operations in the Middle East change in character, Special Operations Forces continue to experience a very high operational tempo. The demand for SOF is high around the globe due to a variety of important missions, including counterterrorism. These operators and the conventional forces that enable them to place their lives on the line each and every day far from home in order to keep us safe, and we should never lose sight of that sacrifice, for which we are all very grateful. This subcommittee is keenly aware of the threats that we face and the importance of SOF missions to national security, and we have acted commensurately, both in funding and unique authorities such as those provided under Section 1208. I look forward to hearing from the witnesses about the importance of these and other unique authorities, as well as about authorities that may need to be extended in the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2016. If there are any new authorities that may be required to combat ISIL or conduct operations in areas outside the Middle East, like European Command, I hope that the witnesses will make that case this afternoon. Congressional oversight of such authorities, as well as SOCOM funding, is obviously very important. Our SOF personnel operate in uncertain, varying, and evolving environments that necessitate continuous assessment of the effectiveness and appropriateness of authorities granted. Our subcommittee has worked in the past to increase oversight through improved reporting, and I want to express my appreciation for the transparency of SOCOM. But internal oversight of SOF operations and SOCOM is just as important. Secretary Lumpkin, we recently had the opportunity to discuss the Oversight Council that you established, and I'd appreciate it if you could provide the subcommittee with an understanding of the Council, including members, meetings, and issues of focus. General Votel, I certainly look forward to hearing from you as well on the preservation of the Force and Families Initiative, among the other things under your responsibility, and I appreciate the meeting that you and I had yesterday. As I mentioned earlier, Special Operations Forces continue to face high operational tempo. The mental health of the operators and their families remains a priority both for you, I know, and for Secretary Lumpkin and for this Congress. Last year, our subcommittee, in conjunction with the Personnel Subcommittee, increased funding for mental health programs for SOF due to increases in suicides. Additionally, I sponsored a provision in the FY15 NDAA to assess the effectiveness of SOCOM's alternative approach to mental and behavioral health in lieu of existing service programs. General, I look forward to working with you this year to continue to support our SOF members and their families. Our goal is on this front, taking care of our force and their families, are one and the same. In closing, I want to express again my gratitude to General Votel for his service to our nation, and Secretary Lumpkin as well for all you do for our nation and the enduring commitment that you have to our men and women in uniform. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for convening this hearing today, and I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Mr. Langevin, thank you very much. And we'll proceed with Secretary Lumpkin. We look forward to your opening statements and of each of you. And then following that, we'll have a 5-minute question period for each member as we alternate. And we're very fortunate that Kevin Gates will be maintaining the time. He's above reproach. So we'll begin with the Secretary. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Wilson, Ranking Member Langevin, and distinguished members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today. I'm glad to speak about the health and welfare of our nation's special operations community and our capability to meet our nation's most pressing national security concerns today and into the future. Currently, our Special Operations Force, also known as SOF, work within an environment where fiscal uncertainty challenges us to think creatively and bridge gaps between resources and U.S. national security objectives, and where the changing nature of the threats we face today demands SOF's attention and engagement through agile authorities that enable us to remain ahead of our adversaries. Addressing how SOF will effectively operate within this environment, I'd like to invite your attention to the following 3 topics. Foremost, SOF is navigating a challenging fiscal environment through enhanced oversight. As the service-like Secretary of U.S. SOCOM, I provide oversight and supervision of SOF resources, develop SOF policies for counterterrorism to counter-narcotics, and preserve and protect our Special Operations Force. This role becomes ever more challenging in a constrained budgetary environment in which we must use limited resources efficiently and effectively so that SOF is globally postured to support the combatant commands. With sequestration level cuts set for fiscal year 2016 and beyond, we continue to strengthen our budget management in order to maximize taxpayers' return on investment in SOF. In addition, we look for innovative ways to use existing resources. Moving to my second point, SOF is most effective to handle the changing nature of threats that we face when agile authorities are available. From ISIL to pro-Russian rebel forces in Ukraine, the United States and our international partners face a diverse set of unconventional threats worldwide. Centered within the physical terrain, the human domain, information environment, and financial cyberspace. Additionally, our response efforts often require security force assistance missions in non-permissive and politically sensitive areas where the host nation demands discrete U.S. footprint. Due to its unique, irregular, and unconventional capabilities, SOF routinely becomes the force of choice. To this point, agile authorities maximize SOF capabilities, helping support SOF operations. Support for foreign partners is fundamental to operational success in overseas contingency operations. and U.S. financial and logistic support as necessary to ensure their continued participation. With the codification of Sections 2282, 1004, and 1022 in Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the Global Security Contingency Fund, and the new Counterterrorism Partnership Fund, we can assist our partners to address emerging threats and opportunities by building their security capacities before those threats exceed their ability to effectively respond. However, building partner capacity takes time. Our building partnership capacity authorities do not accommodate sustainment costs, so we work closely with the State Department to ensure partner nations eventually fund and sustain these programs on their own. Agile, unallocated funding enables implementers to rapidly respond to urgent needs of partner nations more expeditiously and for a greater length of time than is possible through traditional mechanisms. And my final point, protection and preservation of SOF is of utmost importance. Our people are the foundation of special operations, and we strive to ensure our force and their families have a support system necessary to ensure their long-term prosperity and health. Assessing our force structure, operational requirements, and capabilities at various resourcing levels, we have reshaped SOF's operational units, elements, and platforms that we can meet future operational requirements. In addition, we seek to ensure the physical and mental resilience of the individuals who make up our force. Continual combat deployments, combined with a demanding training regimen needed to keep the force sharp, have caused stress on the force and with their families. As ASD SOLIC, I will continue to support enhanced resiliency training currently being conducted through U.S. SOCOM service component programs. In closing, throughout the entire department, we are committed to doing everything we can to ensure that our nation's SOF have the best training, equipment, and overall support that we can possibly provide. We will continue to work closely with Congress and senior policymakers across the government to ensure that we have the right policies and oversight in place so that SOF effectively operates within the current and future environments. I thank Congress for its continuing support of our special operation initiatives, resourcing, and personnel, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you very much.
Secretary Lumpkin, thank you very much. General Votel.
Good afternoon, Chairman Wilson, Ranking Member Langevin, and other distinguished members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you to discuss the current posture of the United States Special Operations Command, or SOCOM as we call it. I'm especially pleased to be here with my OSD teammate, Assistant Secretary Michael Lumpkin. SOCOM was created by the Congress to ensure that we always had ready and capable SOF forces to meet the nation's challenges. Our ability to address these challenges is due in large part to the strong support we get from the Congress, from the House Armed Services Committee, and especially from this distinguished subcommittee. Thank you very much. I'd like to start out by commenting on the amazing actions made every day by our special operations men and women, operators, acquirers, logisticians, analysts, and many others, active and reserve, military and civilian, the total SOF force. Alongside our conventional force partners, the 69,000 quiet professionals of SOCOM are committed to values-based excellence and service to our nation. They relentlessly pursue mission success, and today, roughly 7,500 of them are deployed to over 90 countries worldwide, supporting geographic combatant commander requirements and named operations. We are a force that has been heavily deployed over the last 14 years, and our military members, civilians, and their families have paid a significant price physically and emotionally serving our country. We are very appreciative of the support we have received from Congress to address the visible and invisible challenges, and we never forget that for SOCOM, people are our most important resource. Today, the United States is faced with many challenges. The spread of technology and the diffusion of power are not only being used by responsible leaders to better societies, but unfortunately by wicked actors to orchestrate terror and violence regionally and globally. Non-state actors like Al-Qaeda and ISIL and other violent extremist organizations, menacing state actors like North Korea, and growingly coercive actors like Russia are just a few examples of the entities affecting the strategic environment in which we operate. We are equally affected by the growing use of cyber capabilities and social media, which make it easy for our adversaries to communicate, coordinate, execute, and inspire their actions. The fiscal environment is of concern as well. While SOCOM has been well supported in recent years, I remain profoundly concerned by the impact of another round of sequestration and how it not only impacts SOCOM, but more importantly, how it will affect the force services upon whom we are absolutely dependent for mission support. To address the challenging security environment, SOF provides a portfolio of options to our national leaders and to the geographic combatant commanders. Through small footprint operations and by relying on a network of purposeful partnerships, SOF provides a comparative advantage through persistent engagement, partner enablement, network focus, and discrete rapid response to crisis situations. While we support military operations across the spectrum, SOF capabilities are uniquely suited to operate and succeed in the gray zone between normal international competition and open conflict, and it is in this area where we see our very best opportunities to help shape the future environment. To enable our efforts, I have established 5 priorities for the command. First, we must ensure SOF readiness by developing the right people, skills, and capabilities to meet current and future requirements. To this end, we want to ensure effectiveness now and into the future with the very best SOF operators and support personnel enabled by the best technology and capabilities we can field. Along the way, we want to make the very best use of the unique MFP-11 authorities that Congress has granted us. Second, we must help our nation win by addressing today's security challenges. We strive to provide coherent and well-integrated SOF forces for the geographic combatant commanders, focused on optimizing our SOF activities. Nearly everywhere, you will find SOF forces working alongside and often in support of their conventional force partners, helping accomplish our security objectives. Third, we must build purposeful relationships to improve global understanding and awareness to create options for our leaders. We don't own the network, but we are an important part of it, and working with our partners, we will always produce the best options for our nation. Fourth, we have to prepare for the future security environment to ensure that SOF is ready to win in an increasingly complex world. Ultimately, our goal is to match exquisite people with cutting-edge capability and the very best ideas to help our nation succeed against the looming challenges we will face in the future. Finally, we must preserve our force and families to ensure their long-term well-being. It is this area we are especially focused on, where we are especially focused on a holistic approach to address the invisible challenges of stress and suicide that are affecting our service members, civilians, and their family members. In closing, I remain honored and humbled by the opportunity to command the best special operations forces in the world. I am incredibly proud of each and every one of our team members and their families. I look forward to your questions and our dialogue today.
Thank you very much, General Votel, and thank both of you for being here this afternoon. We are going to begin now the 5-minute round of each member of the subcommittee, and each of us will be strictly held to 5 minutes, and Mr. Gates will maintain the clock. My first question for both of you deals with the impacts of defense sequestration on national security in our military. I know this has impacted even the Special Operations Forces. And for both of you, can you provide specifics of how defense sequestration has impacted Special Operation Forces? Without a solution to defense sequestration, what damage will be done? And I'm particularly concerned about readiness. And we'll begin with the Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that question. As General Votel mentioned in his opening statement, the reliance of support from the services is where we see the largest impact. From where I sit is when we look at what the impacts of sequestration would have on USOCOM. A potential of losing ISR support, impacts on modernization of our air fleet, modernization across the board on those service-supported, surface-common items. Will it also slow our modernization across the board? And so I have real concerns about that. We've had to, based on where we were in 14, as we ended up divesting ourselves from program growth and combat support and combat service support. And I fear that if sequestration were to take effect in 16, the services would divest of the support that we're now more reliant on them than we would have been before. So I see the impacts, while not direct, would be significant nonetheless.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think where we will see some immediate impacts will be perhaps in some of our key investment areas. That would include the procurement and recapitalization of some of our air, ground, and maritime platforms. It could affect our enhancing of soft-specific ISR capabilities that have been so effective for us, fighting some of the enemies that we deal with today. It could also affect our communications infrastructure and equipment technology upon which we depend to conduct global operations. And so that's the impacts, I think, on SOCOM. Beyond that, as I mentioned, I am very concerned about the impact that it has on the services. The lack of availability of air, ground, especially maritime platforms, will affect our readiness, our training exercises, and that we count on to be ready to deal with situations. It will affect our operational effectiveness when we are conducting operations. We depend heavily on service-provided capabilities to support us. A good example, of course, is the Navy's helicopter capability that it's provided in the past for us, which, as it now goes away, is a service-provided capability that we no longer are able to rely on. Beyond that, we will be impacted by soft specific enhancements to service managed programs. As they draw down some of their areas there, that will impact us, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank both of you, and indeed, I believe the members of our subcommittee share your concerns. Secretary Lumpkin, I'm really grateful. I work with the Partners of the Americas program in Colombia, and we've had many exchange students. Two of my sons went to high school in Cali, Colombia. And then I have a very significant Filipino-American population in the district that I represent. And in your written statement, you indicate about the strategic engagement in both Colombia and the Philippines. What is the status and what is the future of what has been so successful in both countries?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and you're absolutely correct. Both of those endeavors have been successful. They've been, each has been long-term. We've been in Colombia and supporting the government there since the mid-1980s. We developed Plan Colombia. We've invested heavily through Plan Colombia itself, and as we are on the cusp of having a peace dividend, but as the peace accords between the FARC and ELN and the government of Colombia are being realized, we'll see some reduction there of our support. What does concern me is the ideas of a vacuum that may be created when these insurgent groups are no longer there, and it may open itself up to transnational organized crime. So I think we need to continue to engage decisively with the Colombians to make sure that we're providing them the support they need, and that in those areas that have been controlled by these insurgent groups, that criminal activities don't take over. In the Philippines, again, we've had a lengthy relationship with our Filipino partners as they work to remove the insurgents from the southern part of the country. We are transitioning that mission now as we've built capacity there, but we have to remain engaged with them to make sure that we don't lose the gains that we've made.
Well, thank you. In both countries, I really wish the American people knew of the success, and that success can be achieved against narco-terrorists and the destabilization. We now proceed to Mr. Langevin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, thanks to our witnesses. Secretary Lumpkin, if I could start with you. Last year, you established the Special Operations Oversight Council, and I referred to that in my opening statement, to provide policy oversight and guidance to SOCOM. The Council was to coordinate special operations-related matters across the Office of Secretary of Defense and Service Secretaries' staffs, and address key issues in the areas of special operations policies and operational priorities, budget execution, force employment, legislative changes, and required capabilities. So what actions in the areas of policy and operational priorities, budget execution, force employment, proposed legislative changes, and required capabilities has the Council reviewed or taken to date, and what were the results of the review of any related issues?
Thank you very much for the question, sir. When I created the Special Operations Policy Oversight Council, it wasn't to supplant any of the responsibilities that I had as driven by statute as the Assistant Secretary. What Once I assumed office, what I quickly realized is that as USSOCOM has grown and become more complex in the nature of their operations and what they do, we were on a 20% manpower reduction within the Office of the Secretary of Defense. So the scope of the work was getting more complex and my staff was shrinking. So I needed another tool to make sure that I had in my tool bag in order to make sure I could cut across those issues within the department. So we created the council. We've had numerous meetings for leadership and working groups which have proven to be profoundly successful. We've tackled 3 principal issues thus far. We tackled inter-theater airlift, support special operations forces within the different geographic combatant commands. When USSOCOM took OPCON, operational control of the theater special operations commands, when they started doing the JSET training, there was issues of who was going to pay the bills. We were able to work through that process to make sure it was cross-cutting within the department and everybody was clear. Unfortunately, this is one of those where USSOCOM got the bill, but rightly so, because a JSET is 51% of the benefit needs to be for the soft personnel, so that made sense. We also are working to establish, the next topic that we took on was MILCON, and is when should we and when should we not use MFP 11 funding for military construction. And the final one is coming up with a real definition of what's soft peculiar, so we know where the bill should go with the services versus within USSOCOM. Those two, we haven't finalized the results yet, we're still working, but it's proven to be very successful and gives me the ability to, the other that it really gives me the ability to do is that I walk a line at times between providing oversight and advocacy for USSOCOM. So what this does, when I get a decision that's cross-cutting and everybody's in agreement, then I can clearly shift in everybody's mind from being oversight to advocate to make sure that everything's done. And it makes it very easy for all to understand the building. So for me, that's the real benefit in addition to being able to navigate some of these sticky wickets.
Okay, thank you. So you alluded to this a little bit, but how do the roles and responsibilities of the council differ from the roles and responsibilities of the Office of Secretary of Defense for special operations and low-intensity conflict, SOCOM, or the military departments?
Again, I look at it as a tool that informs me, that helps me make better decisions, and so I can take it to the Undersecretary of Policy, the Deputy Secretary, or the Secretary to bring resolution to any conflict. So again, it's just a tool for me, and it doesn't supplant any of my roles or responsibilities.
Okay, thank you. General Rotel, as I noted in my opening statement, global demand for special operations forces obviously continues to be high. What impact has the continuous high tempo had on force readiness, training, mental health, and the like? And also, what steps is the command taking to ensure the global demand for positioning of special operations forces is met today and in the future?
Thank you, Congressman. We've continued to pay a lot of attention to our purse tempo of our deployed members, and we, over the last couple of years, have been, with the support of Congress, have been able to get a good process in place where we can manage our purse tempo much better now. So we understand what the deployment tempo of our people are, and we've put in policies and practices in place that allow us to actually control that and manage that and understand what the impact is on the force. And so that has helped us manage the force better than perhaps we were doing that in the past. What that is really translated into is our components being able to organize their forces in a manner so they could have forces that were forward deployed, doing the work of the nation. They could have forces back and recovering. They could have forces recovering. So this kind of one-third approach is what we strive to do. And while we're not complete there in all of our components, we are definitely moving in the right direction to try to control that.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Langevin, we now proceed to Congressman Doug Lambert of Colorado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and for having this hearing, and thank you all for being here and for your service. My first question has to do with legal authorities and rules of engagement. Given the sensitive nature of the missions that Special Operation Forces conduct and sometimes the fast-moving nature of those and lethal nature of those engagements. Are you concerned that sometimes the need to lawyer up is just so burdensome, or that the rules of engagement are so restrictive that you find it difficult to carry out the missions properly? And if so, can we help you in that regard?
Thank you, Congressman, for the question. The answer from my perspective is I don't see that as an impediment to our operations right now. I think we have very effectively integrated operational law into our activities, and in my experience, we have had the rules of engagement, or we have had the process in place that has allowed us to go back and ask for the rules of engagement that were required to conduct the operations which we have been asked to undertake.
Would you care to add anything to that?
No, I agree completely. I haven't seen an issue where we were up against a rules of engagement issue that we couldn't resolve in a very rapid and timely manner.
And to have controlling legal authority, is that a concern at any time?
It's not a concern for us right now. We've been well served by the previous AUMF, and I'm hopeful that the future AUMF will, I think it gives us what we need.
Okay. And I'll just comment on that. I don't want to see restrictions on any future AUMF that do tie the hands of our military too much. So I'd like to see that open-ended as much as possible. What is the status of, and by the way, I do appreciate the 10th Special Forces, which is in my district at Fort Carson and Germany. Great group of people. I always enjoy visiting them, and I enjoyed taking Chairman Thornberry out to see them last August. So, what is the status of the Preservation of Force and Families program these days?
Thanks. Let me talk about that. I think we are making significant progress in this area. The investments that we've made over the last several years with the support of Congress, I think, are making a big difference. While I still think the force is stressed, I think it is lessened than we have seen in the past. So I have a holistic approach here that addresses the physical, spiritual, the emotional, the psychological aspect of this. I think is beginning to pay off. I think we've got a good strategy in place to address our most pressing problems, which I consider to be the invisible challenges, the stress that is leading to suicide or suicide ideations. And I think we've got a good approach to this. We're really focused on three big objectives. One is to empower our people by communicating to them the variety of resources that are available. Second is to enable them by providing as easy of access as we can to those resources so that they can take advantage of them. And then finally is to encourage them by emphasizing that it is absolutely normal to seek care for yourself and your family, and that we expect that and we encourage it, and there is no stigma associated with that. And we are beginning to see indicators now that that message is sinking in, and that understanding is going down into the SOCOM force.
Okay, well, that's great to hear. I want to thank you for your service and for being here today. Mr. Chairman, I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you, Congressman Lambert. We now proceed to Congressman Jim Cooper of Tennessee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Congressman Rich Nugent, all the way from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank both of you for your service, and we're just up the street from you, so we appreciate it. General Votel, in the NDAA, I'll be asking for a report to explore the future of directed energy weapons within SOCOM. And I'm encouraged to see that SOCOM already is looking into directed energy solutions, and I would just like to emphasize to you that I'm going to be very, very protective of keeping your flexible and relatively agile acquisition system uninhibited, if I can. For the subcommittee today, would you just give us some broad strokes of what that report would look like? In other words, what would SOCOM's future plans be as it relates to directed energy?
Congressman, I'll take, first of all, I'll take the question for the record, and we'll provide you a detailed response, and we'll look into the very specific capabilities. I thank you for your continued support of our acquisition capability. You know, the advantage I think we have is that we can very closely link the requirements of the operators to our acquisition arm, and unlike the service chiefs that you heard of yesterday, I do have a very close relationship with my acquisition authority, and because of the great authorities that Congress has provided us, we are able to respond quickly. Broadly to your question on directed energy, we are always looking at the very best tools that we will require for the future. Certainly directed energy fits into a model that we have been proceeding against for some time, which is precision and accuracy in the employment of our weapon systems. And I think that directed energy offers us a great opportunity in terms of that. So I look forward to providing you a more detailed response on that for the record.
Well, General, I appreciate that. Now, in the FY15 NDA directs a report on technology roadmap for underseas mobility. And of course, I'm very interested in the full details of that report later this year, but I want to ask for maybe just a preview of just two parts of that dry combat submersible program. What requirement drives the development of a dry combat submersible 1? In an unclassified setting, what do you need a dry combat submersible to do, if you could? And I understand this is not a classified setting, so.
Yeah, thanks. And again, I think this probably would be best discussed in a classified setting, Congressman. But in general, what it allows us to do is it allows us to take the full opportunity of the maritime environment to pursue the full range of missions that SOCOM does on behalf of the nation, and that includes the sensitive activities that we do out there. And this really does provide us a very unique capability to emplace our operators or our folks at the right place to pursue the missions that we have. So we look forward to kind of laying that out for you in a classified setting. But I do think it allows us to take the full opportunity of the maritime environment to accomplish the missions that we're assigned.
I appreciate that. I appreciate both your comments, though, in regards to what sequestration, while may not directly affect you, but the services that support you, it will affect, and it certainly will have an effect on you in regards to implementing your mission. And I worry about the fact that we're going to be limited in regards to being able to project that force where we need it in pinpoint accuracy if we continue with sequestration. I know the chairman is in agreement with that. Sequestration is a cancer that is going to eat and destroy our national security, and it's one that we're all very, very invested in trying to turn around. So I appreciate your service, both of you. Thank you very much, and I yield back.
Thank you, Congressman Nugent. We now proceed to Congressman John Garamendi of California.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And for the two witnesses, my apologies for not being here. We seem to have 3 Armed Services Committee subcommittees operating at the same moment, including a Coast Guard subcommittee. So just a question. I'm going to follow up. I think this is a question that Mr. Lumpkin, you were asked, maybe Mr. Langevin asked this question. And in the operations of the Special Operation Forces, you do different things for different parts of the security, national security. Who winds up paying for the pieces of that where, let's say it might be a naval operation or an Army or a Marine operation? Who winds up paying for these operations?
Well, I think we have 2 parts of the payment issue. One of them is in how we procure equipment and things of that nature. If it is what we call a service common item, then the service would pay that requisite bill. And then anything that was peculiar to the Special Operations community, we would use MFP 11, that's Major Force Program 11 funds, to go ahead and pay that, whether it's to modify it or adjust it to make it useful for us the way we needed, what we needed to do.
And
Operations themselves, I mean, for overseas contingency operations, generally come out of the department's OCO funding. So there's funding in the answer, and so who's paying for the bill really kind of depends on the nature of the operation of whose OCO account it would come out of. But I can give you a detailed breakdown of that if you would like. I would be happy to take that for the record for you.
Yes, if you would. I think this, I know that Mr. Langevin was interested in that, and as am I, but yes, if you please do that.
I'll do that.
We know that in Iraq and Syria, it's anticipated that the special operations units will be used. Is that going to be, how does that get paid for? And what is the extent of that? We're going to have to deal with an AUMF here pretty quickly, at least we should. And the issue is not just the men and women that are going to be deployed, but then how much is it going to cost us to deploy them? Mr. Lumpkin, and then General, if you could delve into that.
And those operations in Iraq and Syria, those that are going on today in support of the Iraqi government and such, are paid for through OCO. But if you, I mean, that will be part of the breakdown that I'd get you is the actual dollar figures that are being used to date. We can do that.
It seems to me that one of the important things we ought to be considering as we deal with this AUMF is that it will be expensive or have some expense for the taxpayers of the United States. We need to know, at least have some reasonably good idea how much this is going to cost us. And we also know that it's likely to be expensive for the men and women that are involved, quite possibly with death and injury. So we need to know that also. So if that's something that's on my mind, I hope it's on the rest of my colleagues' minds also. Finally, in the last few moments here, we spend a lot of time in other subcommittees dealing with communications. GPS is vulnerable. What steps are being taken by special operations that are extensively using that particular technology to deal with its interruption? Whichever one of you would like to jump into that.
Thanks. Thank you for the question, Mr. Congressman. We obviously, as I mentioned in my opening statement, we are very concerned about the cyber environment and these different ways that people can come after our use of technologies, our use of the internet to support us. So in conjunction with direction we've gotten from the chairman and working along with Cyber Command, we are very much in the process of addressing our cyber protection capability, both reliant on resources that are made available to us from the Cyber Command and by elements that we will stand up within SOCOM to get after that particular problem. So we are very alert to the threat that you just outlined right here, and certainly GPS is something that's impacted, but certainly all of our communications and communications architecture is potentially at risk as well.
Much of the rest of the world is looking at what's known as an advanced or E-Lorraine systems. I'd like to have some comment from you on the record about what you may be using in that regard, not just within the United States, but around the world, where this is actually being deployed by some people that we're very interested in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Congressman.
Thank you, Congressman Garamendi. We now proceed to Congressman Mo Brooks of Alabama.
Thank you for your service. As you're aware, Capitol Hill is engaged in a significant debate over the budgets. We've got the White House budget, we've got the House budget, and presumably the Senate is also working on a budget. The President's proposed budget for national defense is $561 billion, roughly, for base defense, and another $51 billion, roughly speaking, for OCO, for a total, roughly, of $612 billion. The House budget for national defense is $523 billion for base, that being the amount set forth in the Budget Control Act, and roughly $90 billion for OCO. To state a little bit differently, base defense budget, President 561, which is $38 billion more than permitted under the Budget Control Act, and the $523 billion that the House budget, at least as of this moment, represents. And on the OCO side, the President's budget proposes $51 billion, while the House is $39 billion more, OCO. So we have $612, $613 billion from the two budgets being spent on national defense, but the key issue is, which is better for our national defense, for the money to be in the base or the money to be in OCO? Can you please share with me your insight on which you think is a better place to put the money and how that affects our security capabilities? And whoever wants to go first can go first.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the question very much. The challenge we have with OCO is it's, the money comes that year and you've got the year, you don't have it in the out years. It's not something I can sit here and plan on. So it actually increases my fiscal uncertainty, because I'm going to buy a piece of equipment, for example, and I can't count I'm going to have the sustainment costs in the out years. Because it's kind of like, if I had to give an example, like buying a car and not knowing you can pay the car insurance 2 years from now, or put gas in it, or do the maintenance. And so while you end up with the same dollar figure when it's done for that particular year, and I just don't know what I've got in the future, so it's very difficult for me to plan. So as I'm looking at programmatics from where I sit, I'm frequently figuring, what's my exit strategy if I don't get the funding in the future to fix it? Each one will meet a very short-term need, but in the out years it becomes problematic when you have this reliance on OCO and don't move it over to your base budget.
So you've got the adverse effect on planning, and what I might infer is the adverse effect on purchasing capital goods. Long-term.
Exactly,
plan.
yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? Any other adverse effect, or General Votel?
I would add, I agree with Secretary Lumpkin and his comments. It is better in the base. I think the big advantage is that the base funding provides us certainty in a time of uncertainty as we continue moving forward in this very complex environment. And so I think that helps us plan better. I think it helps us make better investments long term, and then of course it gives us the best ability to sustain those programs as we move forward. So like the Secretary said, both of these will work in the short term. The base I think helps us for the longer term.
Let me focus on the OCO money again for just a moment. If the House were to pass a budget that spent roughly $90 billion on OCO, and giving the planning and spending inhibitions that or problems that you've just described, is all that $90 billion apt to be spent by the Department of Defense? Or is some of it just not going to be used because you can't properly plan and use it? And I don't know the answer to these questions. That's why I'm asking them.
I don't want to necessarily speculate but I would say that there's a possibility of that, as that it may not all get used.
General Votel?
I would agree. I think the disadvantage of single-year money, which OCO generally is, does create the risk that we may not be able to employ large sums of it that way. As it is right now, we do part of our budget. We do ask for some OCO funding, and so we are able to plan for some of that. But I think I would be speculating a little bit here.
Well, I've got roughly 15, 20 seconds left. Anything else y'all would like to add that would help me decide how to vote on this issue?
I'm just of the opinion, if it's important enough to do and it's part of what you should be doing every day, it should be in your base budget.
I think our people deserve a certainty.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Congressman Brooks. And at this time, if there are any further questions, they can be submitted for the record. And I'd like to thank again, Mr. Secretary General, for your being here today. I'm grateful to be serving with Congressman Langevin, and at this time we are adjourned.